What if the conspiracy wasn't that it happened, but that it worked? Let me start with a comforting thought. If the government had successfully figured out how to control your mind, they would definitely tell you about it. They'd put it on Wikipedia. They'd declassify the files. They'd pinky promise it will never happen again, right? Because governments are famously transparent, right? And intelligence agencies have an excellent track record of saying, yeah, we messed up. That's on us. Tonight's episode is not about paranoia. It's about power, psychology, and persuasion. And one very uncomfortable historical fact. Mind control isn't a sci-fi concept. It's a research category. So tonight, we're talking about MKUltra, the real one, not the Reddit fan fiction one. How brainwashing actually works psychologically. Why cult tactics, war propaganda, and modern algorithms rhyme so perfectly. And most importantly, how to protect your mind from these sinister forces. Because whether or not you believe in conspiracies, your brain is being designed around them every single day. Now, what actually is mind control? Well, let's get something straight first. Mind control doesn't mean that someone flips a switch, right? And you turn into some kind of automaton, right? Your eyes glaze over. You instantly become a secret sleeper agent named Jason Bourne. That's Hollywood. Look, in psychology, mind control refers to things like behavioral compliance, attitude change, identity destabilization. It's really easy to sort of like get into someone's mind and make them start believing other things if they don't have a strong identity. So they try to break that first, right? They control your attention, your emotions. It's all about reinforcement, right? In other words, you don't need to control thoughts directly. You don't. You need to control inputs. You need to control the incentives and the consequences. And this is why things like advertising works. Advertising's the best mind control out there. They get you to buy trash you don't even need. I mean, this is why propaganda works. I mean, honestly, some dope believed that there was a secret pedophile ring in the bottom of a pizza restaurant that didn't even have a basement. Propaganda works, my friends. Cult indoctrination works. I mean, people actually believe that some spaceship was going to come over the planet in a comet and suck them up to the mothership. Social media works frighteningly well, too. Let's be honest. How many people were looking at those videos that were AI generated, but they were oh so real? I mean, your brain is a prediction machine. Whoever controls the environment controls the predictions. Market, dude. All right. But let's actually talk about the three letters that launch 1,000 tinfoil hats. MK Ultra, right? In the internet era, MK Ultra has become a punchline or a big shadow man in the corner of a creepy pasta. Right. But let's ground this in reality, my little succulents. This was a massive taxpayer funded CIA program that ran from 1953 to 1973. It wasn't about finding superpowers. It was a cold-blooded attempt to master the art of the break. They were researching the ultimate toolkit of human destruction, mind control, interrogation techniques that would make a medieval inquisitor blush, psychological manipulation, memory erasure, and total behavioral compliance. This is not a conspiracy theory born in a Reddit thread, my guys. This is a congressional record. Check it out. I mean, under the direction of Sidney Gottlieb, the black sorcerer, right, of the CIA, the program turned North America into a laboratory without walls. I mean, the methods were the greatest hits of human misery. The chemical buffet, LSD, heroin, mescaline, scopolamine. I mean, come on now. They use sensory and sleep deprivation. They turn the brain into a blank, exhausted slate, right? They use psychic driving techniques using repetitive looped messaging for days on end to overwrite the person's inner monologue. And it worked. I mean, they used electroshock, they used hypnosis, right? Pushing the physical and mental limits of what a human being can endure before they simply snap. The most chilling part, the volunteers, many subjects were prisoners, psychiatric patients, or random civilians who were drugged in brothels and bars by undercover agents. Talk about illegal. I mean, they didn't consent. They didn't even know they were in an experiment. They just thought they were losing their minds. Some suffered lifelong psychological fractures. Others simply didn't survive the research. And when the heat got too high in 1973, CIA Director Richard Helms, he ordered the records destroyed, as one should, right? We are looking at the very tip of a very dark, very jagged iceberg. Now, you might ask, out of all the drugs in the world, why was LSD the CIA's star player? Now, to understand that, we have to look at the neuroscience of the ego, right? So, hallucinogens are essentially like chemical wrenches thrown into the gears of your identity. Hallucinogens, identity. Specifically, they disrupt what we call the default mode network, or the DMN, right? And that's basically the part of your brain responsible for your sense of self, your internal narrative, right? Who you are, the stories you tell about yourself. Now, when the default mode network goes offline, you experience what is called neural entropy. The prefrontal cortex, right? This part right up in here, your decision making, the part of you that says, wait, this is a bad idea, right? Your judgment, decision making part. Or, that person is lying to me. Well, unfortunately, it loses its top down control. Translation: the brain becomes a sponge. I mean, it becomes highly suggestible under LSD properties, right? This is why psychedelics are a double edged sword. In a therapeutic setting with a professional, as I've talked about before, on planting thoughts, they can produce profound spiritual breakthroughs. I mean, the research is clear, right? They help to melt away those rigid, sort of lifelong traumas of the past. But in the hands of a CIA operative, come on now, they are a tool for cognitive vulnerability, my dudes. I mean, the CIA researchers believed in a concept called depatterning. Depatterning. The theory was simple, right? And pretty terrifying, to be honest. If you can use chemicals to dissolve someone's identity, to strip away their name, their history, right? Things like this, their core beliefs, you create a vacuum. And as any physics teacher will tell you, nature hates a vacuum. Once the old identity is gone, what happens? The CIA comes in and they believe they could just rebuild a new one in its place. This is not science fiction. This is not a magic trick. It is the exploitation of your brain's natural neuroplasticity under extreme stress. They weren't just trying to make people talk, they were trying to change who was doing the talking. Cults do the same thing. Well, not the same thing, but something very similar, right? This is where it gets really interesting. They might not be using LSD darts, right, and lab coats, but they are using patterns of control through things like isolation, Things like love bombing, the narcissist also uses to get you kind of addicted to that sort of, big high, and then they go away and you don't get anything. And then you're waiting for that big high, and there it comes, and then it's gone, right? They use fear, they use identity erosion, us versus them narratives. Again, all things I've talked about on planting thoughts before. Come on now. And they also use repetition, kind of like I just did. I mean, cults, they try to get you exhausted, right? Sleep deprivation, right? And these things are all documented in psychology, and they mirror, you know, coercive persuasion, thought reform, right? Trauma bonding, all of these types of things. I mean, guys, these are the same mechanics. They're just different branding, which brings us to warfare, propaganda, and the brainwashed POWs. During the Korean and Vietnam Wars, the U.S. became obsessed with reports that American POWs were being brainwashed. Turns out, no magical mind control actually existed. That was all garbage. POWs complied under extreme stress because they were stressed. Guys, I'm sorry, but survival trumps ideology any day of the week. The real lesson is humans will say or believe almost anything when their identity, when their safety, and their belongings are threatened. I mean, that scared intelligence agencies far more than hypnosis ever could because it told them their techniques weren't actually producing any reliable information. People will say whatever they can if they're stressed out or threatened. And that brings us to Nazi propaganda, right? The OG brainwashing, if you will. No drugs required, right? We're pivoting all the way back to World War II. Now, if the CIA was obsessed with LSD because they wanted a shortcut to the soul, history actually shows us you don't actually need a syringe to hijack a nation. The Nazis didn't need psychedelics to turn civilized society into a death cult. I mean, they mastered the dry method of mind control, right? Joseph Goebbels wasn't a scientist, but he was a master of cognitive fluency. He understood a dark fundamental truth about the human brain. Familiarity feels like truth. If you repeat a lie often enough, with enough emotional arousal and enough dehumanizing us versus them, the brain stops fact checking and starts to feel, baby. The Nazi machine used narrative saturation. I mean, they ensured there was no outside to their reality, right? All you learned was what they told you. They didn't just tell you what to think, they controlled your entire menu of available thoughts. I mean, this is the psychology of the big lie, right? It's not that people are stupid, it's that when you're constantly flooded with high arousal, emotionally charged propaganda, your prefrontal cortex, it packs its bags and leaves. You aren't being persuaded. You aren't being mind controlled. You're just being conditioned. It's the same deep patterning the CIA wanted, just delivered via radio waves and rallies instead of sugar cubes laced with LSD. Which brings us to right freaking now. And this is where we connect the dot. And it's basically a straight line from Goebbels to your For You page. No one needs secret CIA programs or state-run radio anymore. We have something way, way more efficient, much more intimate, and significantly more addictive. The algorithm. If MKUltra was a sledgehammer, the modern algorithm is a laser-guided scalpel. It is the cleanest form of mind control ever invented because you voluntarily carry the controller in your pocket. It's not about monitoring where you are or listening to your conversations. Every time you click it, they're putting up a ticket. Look, there's a lot of chatter, and it's partially supported by content moderation data. TikTok, for instance, is a digital dual threat. In China, for instance, right, the algorithm pushes spinach, engineering, patriotism, educational feats. And then in the West, it pushes the candy, right? Chaos, outrage, 3 a.m., brain rot. Now, whether that's a deliberate geopolitical cognitive strike or just a byproduct of different cultural markets, it's still being debated. But the result is the same. So, does it really matter? Algorithmic incentives are shaping human cognition differently across the globe. This is the evolution of emotional contagion. I mean, social media doesn't just repeat a lie, it rewards you for believing it. It controls your attention. It rewards your outrage. I mean, it punishes nuance. It uses dopamine driven engagement loops to do exactly what the CIA failed to do. It rebrands your identity. I mean, the time thread, Goebbels used repetition to create the big lie, right? The algorithm uses hyper personalization to create the big echo. I mean, you're not being brainwashed by a dictator. You're being brainwashed by a mirror that only shows you what makes you angry enough to keep you scrolling. And the unsettling part isn't that a foreign power might be using this to control us, right? It's that the system is so perfect, it doesn't even need a pilot. The engagement is the brainwashing. Market. Now, look, I always try to give you little succulents a practical section to help you control the ills of the world, right? And here we go. I'm going to give you one to sort of help you stave off the debilitating effects of mind control, all right? All right, here's the practical section. Control your inputs. If you don't choose what you consume, someone else will. Limit the algorithmic feeds, my dudes. Get a book. Read some long form content. Oh my God. 30-second sound bites are cool, but long form is so much better. That's what she said, baby. Look, diversify your viewpoints, right? I know it's hard. Sometimes you don't want to watch the trash that's being spewed from the manosphere or the wherever, the toxic sphere, wherever, right? But sometimes you need to know. You need to know what their arguments are, right? You need to learn this stuff. Watch for emotional hijacking, right? In other words, if something evokes a strong emotion, you have to know in the moment that that equals basically weak critical thinking, right? So you need to ask yourself, is this trying to make me angry, afraid, or morally superior? And if the answer is yes, then go away, leave it. It is not what you want to be looking at in the moment. Number three, slow down your belief formation. I mean, instant certainty, that is a red flag. It's better to build over time. Beliefs formed slowly are stronger and harder to manipulate. Number four, you need to maintain identity complexity, right? Cults, algorithms, propaganda, they thrive on simple, single identities. You want to have multiple roles in life. Do not boil yourself down to this one thing. I'm a Raiders fan or whatever, right? I'm a Democrat or I'm a Republican or I'm a Christian. Have multiple roles. I'm a son. I'm a father. I'm a Christian. It makes you more resistant to those forces trying to attack one of your identities, right? You want to have multiple values. And quite frankly, like multiple communities. And this is a thing that Americans need to get better at, right? We need to be around more people. Have multiple communities, right? If you're a high school student, you're not just hanging out with the cheerleaders. You're also hanging out at the gaming club, right? I don't know. If you're at work, right, and you've got a couple buddies that you always hang out with, maybe invite someone else once in a while, someone that's a little bit different. Number five, question repetition. If repetition is happening constantly, you need to question it because it doesn't equal truth. Familiarity doesn't equal accuracy. Just because you're hearing it all the time doesn't mean it's real. Number six, build metacognition. Think about how you actually think. That alone is one of the strongest defenses against persuasion on the planet. All right. MKUltra didn't fail because mind control is impossible. It failed because humans are pretty messy. I mean, we don't fit cleanly into those little boxes, do we? Ethics. Ethics intervened, right? Ethics intervened. We need our systems of ethics. Morality, right? We do not want a free for all chaos. And control is more effective when it's invisible, guys. Bring this stuff out into the open. The real question isn't, are we being brainwashed? It's who benefits from the way that I currently think? If the answer isn't you, plant that thought. If this episode made you uncomfortable, good. It should. If it made you curious, even better. You better subscribe today so you can become even more curious, baby. You can think critically. You can protect your mind against all of those dark and not so dark forces out there. I'll see you next time. I'm Mike, and this is Planting Thoughts, baby.